Hello friends, today we will talk about toxic effects of pesticides, its brief classification with examples, that's residual and non-residual pesticides, its mode of entry and mode of action of pesticides in target and non-target organisms. And the main objectives of today's deliberation are to understand the concept of pesticides, to study about toxic effects of pesticides, to know about their classification and to get knowledge about residual and non-residual pesticides. So first and foremost, pesticides. A pesticide is a substance or mixture of substances intended for preventing, destroying, repelling or lessening the damage of any pest. The pest can be insects, plant pathogens, weeds, mollusks, birds, mammals, fish, nematodes, which include roundworms, and microbes that compete with humans for food, destroy property, spread disease, or are seen as nuisance. A pesticide may be a chemical substance, biological agent such as virus or bacteria, antimicrobial, disinfectant, or device. Some pesticides are absorbed by the plants and thus become part of the plants themselves. Such pesticides are called systemic pesticides. The poison then appear in all parts of the plants, such as leaves and flowers, causing many organisms that consume parts of the plant to be affected, including humans. Often useful insects such as bees, which pollinate plants, die from this. Now the toxic effects of pesticides. According to estimates by the World Health Organization (WHO), each year between 5 lakh and 1 million people are poisoned by pesticides and between 5,000 and 20,000 die. At least half of the intoxicated and 75% of those who die are agriculture workers. The rest is due to poisoning by eating contaminated food. In total, between the two groups in mortality reached the figure of 2,20,000 deaths per year. Although pesticides have been developed to produce toxic effects in the fighting pests, and although these effects may also potentially result in living organisms non-white of its action, the latter possibility will only occur if exposure of these bodies reach sufficient levels to produce the toxic effect. Therefore, besides knowing the physical, chemical and toxic pesticides, knowledge of each country or estimate potential exposure of humans and other organisms which may occur in the localities in which they apply or you come to spread in the environment or through the food chain. According to the type of toxicity, these chemicals affect the growth and survival of the reproductive factors, and in the case of acute toxicity, may cause death of exposed organisms. They have also been associated with long-term carcinogenicity, mutagenicity, and reproductive and hormonal effects, among others. Agrochemicals able to induce change in the genetic material of somatic and germinal tissues are considered mutagenic, contributing to the appearance of congenital malformations and cancer etiology. Epidemiological studies have associated with the cancer, gastric, skin, kidney, liver, prostate, testes in individuals exposed, besides sarcomas, leukemia, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, myeloma, and others. Exposure to pesticide either during development, production, or use causing adverse effects on human health. These effects are not always related to immediate and apparent injuries, but can take even years to appear. Although the general population is exposed to these compounds, farmers are in a high risk group and therefore require biomonitoring studies to evaluate acute and chronic disease caused by exposure to pesticides. The amount of damage can be indicative of the need for continuous biomonitoring. Farmers occupationally exposed to various mixtures of pesticides using a battery of tests of genotoxicity. Now the classification of pesticides. Due to the large amount of chemicals and pesticides, combinations of compounds have been classified for use in insecticides, miticides, herbicides, nematicides, fungicides, molluscicides, and rodenticides. The World Health Organization proposed classification based on their health risk, based on their toxic behavior in rats and other experimental animals by administering oral and dermal and estimating the median lethal dose, that is LD50, that produced death in 50% of exposed animals. Pesticides are classified according to their chemical structure into different families ranging from organochlorine and organophosphorus compounds to inorganic compounds. So first of all, we will see what organochlorine compounds are. These are stable compounds, are too persistent in the environment and tend to accumulate in fatty tissue. Its main use is in the eradication of disease vectors such as dengue and malaria. They are also used in cultivation of grapes, lettuce, tomato, alfalfa, corn, rice, sorghum, cotton, and wood for preservation. In humans, these substances or their metabolites act primarily at the level of the central nervous system, altering the electrophysiological properties and enzymatic neuronal membranes, causing alterations in the kinetics of the flow of sodium and potassium through the membrane of the nerve cell, resulting in the spread of multiple action potentials for each stimulus, causing symptoms such as seizures and acute poisoning death from respiratory arrest. Now the organophosphates. They are esters derived from phosphoric acid. In man, they act on the central nervous system by inhibiting acetylcholine esterase. That is an enzyme that modulates the amount and levels of the neurotransmitter, that's acetylcholine, disrupting the nerve impulse by serine phosphorylation of the hydroxyl group in the active site of the enzyme. The symptoms are causing loss of reflexes, headache, dizziness, nausea, convulsions, coma, and even death. Also described with alkylating properties, which from the point of view of mutagenesis is paramount because they act directly on the deoxyribonucleic acid, that's the DNA, adding alkyl groups methyl and ethyl mainly to the nitrogenous bases with nucleophilic groups capable of reacting with electrophiles. Organophosphorus compounds are most commonly used in agriculture. Most are insecticides and miticides. The way of joining these organizations is by ingestion and contact. They are used in vegetable crops, fruits, trees, grains, cotton and sugarcane, among many others. Now the carbamates. They are esters derived from acids or dimethyl N-methyl carbamic acid, which is used as herbicides, insecticides, fungicides and nematicides. They are less persistent than organochlorines and organophosphates, and likewise the latter inhibit acetylcholine esterase. However, in the case of carbamates, action is fast and the kinetics of blocking is through the carbamylation of the enzyme by the covalent attachment of electrophilic groups that steric carbamyl sites of the enzyme. Now the pyrethroids. They originate from natural insecticide derived from pyrethrum, extract derived from chrysanthemum flowers, known as pyrethroids. They act on the central nervous system, causing change in the dynamics of the sodium channels in the membrane of the nerve cell, causing it to increase its opening time, prolonging sodium current across the membrane in both insects and vertebrates. These events can lead to neuronal hyperexcitation. Residual pesticides and non-residual pesticides. Residual pesticides remain effective where they are applied for some length of time. The length of time depends on the formulation, the type of surface and the condition of the surface. Termiticides are examples of insecticides with very long residual time. They are applied in the soil under homes to prevent subterranean termites from attacking. Non-residual pesticides. Non-residual insecticides have no residual activity. They work now, then they are gone within a fairly short time. Pyrethrum, that's an extract from flowers, is an active ingredient in many non-residual insecticides. Probably the most widely used non-residual insecticides are the aerosol sprays for flying and crawling insects. Non-residual insecticides are also known as contact insecticides. In other words, you have to hit the bug with the spray in order for it to work. Now the mode of action of pesticides. Most people know that insecticides kill insects. However, the way in which these chemicals work is a mystery to most of us. How an insecticide works is called its mode of action. A complete understanding of the mode of action of an insecticide requires knowledge of how it affects a specific target site within an organism. The target site is usually a critical protein or enzyme in the insect, but some insecticides affect broader targets. Although most insecticides have multiple biological effects, toxicity is usually attributed to a single major effect. Now the larvicides and adulticides, organophosphates. Organophosphorus insecticides affect the nervous system. These insecticides are synaptic poisons. The synapse is a junction between two nerves or a nerve connection point, hence the name synaptic poison. Specifically, organophosphorus insecticides bind to an enzyme found in the synapse called acetylcholine esterase. This enzyme is designed to stop a nerve impulse after it has crossed the synapse. Organophosphorus insecticides bind to and prevent the enzyme from working. Therefore, poisoned synapse can't stop the nerve impulse. Consequently, continued stimulation of the nerve occurs as observed with pyrethroids. Poisoned insects exhibit tremors and uncoordinated movement. Now the larvicides, growth regulators. These chemicals are typically referred to as insect growth regulators. that's IGRs. IGRs act on the endocrine or hormone system of insects. These insecticides are specific for insects having very low mammalian toxicity, are non-persistent in the environment and cause death slowly. Most of the currently registered IGRs mimic the juvenile hormone produced in the insect brain. Juvenile hormone tells the insect to remain in the immature state. When sufficient growth has occurred, the juvenile hormone production ceases, triggering the molt to the adult state. IGR chemicals such as methoprin mimic the action of juvenile hormone and keep the insect in the immature state. Insects treated with these chemicals are unable to molt successfully to the adult stage and can't reproduce normally. Now the larvicides are pesticides. Very refined oil or surfactants can be used as larvicides or pesticides. These products have the ability to kill both the larva and pupae. The surfactant used is also called monomolecular film. Using conventional spraying methods, the invisible monomolecular film quickly spreads over standing water habitats. The film reduces the surface tension of the water, making it difficult for the mosquito larvae and pupae to attach to the surface, which causes them to drown. Now the effect of pesticides on non-target organisms. Pesticide effects on non-target organisms have been a source of worldwide contention and concern for more than a decade and are the basis for most legislation aimed at controlling or prohibiting the use of specific pesticides. There are three specific ways in which pesticides may enter body. Pesticides may enter the body through the skin, lungs or mouth. First of all, dermal route. Wet, dry or gaseous forms of pesticides can be absorbed through the skin. This may occur if pesticides are allowed to get on the skin while mixing or applying, or if pesticide contaminated clothing is not removed promptly and properly cleaned before being worn again. Oil or paste forms allow greater absorption through the skin than water-based pesticides. Some pesticides do not pass through the skin very readily. Others are quickly absorbed through the skin and can be as dangerous as if they are swallowed. Skin varies in its capacity to act as barrier to pesticide absorption. The eyes, eardrums, scalp and groin areas absorb pesticides more quickly than other areas on the body. Damaged or open skin can be penetrated by a pesticide much more readily than healthy intact skin. Once they are absorbed through skin, pesticides enter the bloodstream and are carried throughout the body. Second is inhalation route. Whether as dust, spray, mist or fumes, pesticides can be drawn into your lungs as you breathe. Inhalation of pesticides can occur during the mixing of vegetable powders, dusts or granules. Poisoning can also occur while fumigating or spraying without a self-contained breathing apparatus or a proper respirator in enclosed or poorly ventilated areas such as greenhouses, apartments or grain bins. The number of particles needed to poison by inhalation depends upon the concentration of the chemical in the particles. Even inhalation of dilute pesticides can result in poisoning. Once they are absorbed through the surface of the lungs, chemicals enter the bloodstream and are distributed to the rest of the body. Now the oral route. Pesticide can also enter through the body through the mouth. This can occur when hands are not properly washed before eating or smoking. They may be swallowed by mistake if they are improperly stored in food containers. Ingested materials can be absorbed anywhere along the gastrointestinal tract. The major absorption site is the small intestine. Once absorbed, they eventually enter the bloodstream by one of the several means and circulate throughout the body. This brings us to the end of the lecture. Hope you have enjoyed and understood. Thank you and goodbye.